everybody, welcome to Pioneer Tuesday here at Card Art in Sunnyvale, California. It is just me, Optimus Tom, all by my lonesome doing the casting today, but that's okay because I am a professional, and we have 3 rounds of Pioneer action to bring you, kicking off with some pretty interesting decks across the room, but more importantly, we're going to wind up seeing a couple of people who have a bit of a grudge match against each other in the streaming area. Ygra and Matt Zhu going head-to-head for what seems like the 3rd time on stream in the last 3 weeks or so. Matt is going to be playing the classic Jund Sacrifice deck that he has been preparing, while Ygra is on a little bit of a different brew, and while it's still white and blue, I guess you'll just have to see what he's up to. So let's hop in the game, as both of the players should have gotten underway. We do see that Matt Zhu on the right is playing Jund Sacrifice, as I mentioned, and Ygra on the left is on the Azorius Oculus list. This is going to be a tempo style deck that is looking to use Abhorrent Oculus, which is a newer card from Duskmourn that is going to be a 3-mana flying threat that normally you have to kind of delve to get into play, but we're going to be cheating it out another way with some reanimation spells, very similar to Unearth style decks in Modern. But Matt Zhu looks like is on the offensive here. On the draw, this game is going to be playing out Mayhem Devil in addition to a Witch's Oven, and did have a fatal push to answer what Ygra was presenting with a Ledger Shredder on turn number 2. Looks like there has been a little bit of damage going across here, as I do believe that Matt is going to be at 17, and Ygra is going to be down to sorry, we're going to flip those life totals around a little bit. Ygra should be down to 17, as Matt should be at 18, thanks to a quick attack there from the Mayhem Devil. Looks like we do have an end-of-turn channeling of Sokenzan here from Matt Zhu. Ygra not really having anything to do, but with white and blue mana available, does have access to a plethora of potential tempo swings. But Matt, in the meantime, is going to be getting a little aggressive with it, swinging Ygra all the way down to 12 with this attack for 5 with the creatures he has in play. Looks like this deadly dispute from Matt Zhu is not going to resolve. Does have to sacrifice just one of his spirit tokens in order to do so, and unfortunately didn't have an untapped land, so there's no punish really there from that No More Lies, although Ygra did have to take 1 damage in order to activate it using one of those pain lands, and we are going to have a second copy of Ledger Shredder hitting the battlefield here from Ygra's side. Will be a little bit of an important engine type piece for his deck if he wants to discard those Abhorrent Oculi. However, a second Mayhem Devil here from Matt Zhu all of a sudden represents a lot of potential damage on this board. There's an active Witch's Oven, there's a bunch of untapped mana. That is not the right button I wanted to hit, but these Mayhem Devil triggers are going to start stacking up pretty high. It does look like Ygra declares a block against the 1/1 Spirit token, but we are going to just wind up having the Mayhem Devil triggers happening anyway, so Ygra technically takes a little bit of extra damage here from this swing, and is going to wind up going all the way down to what looks like 6, and unfortunately just doesn't have anything to come back from that one. Matt Zhu, with a pair of Mayhem Devils, is going to take game number 1 in this head-to-head. Bit of a feature match, grudge match. Sideboards for the decks going to be a little bit interesting. Ygra did wind up sending me over his list, so while I am waiting to pull that one up for everybody, we can just kind of go over a little bit what we think that Matt Zhu is going to be doing. The Jund Sacrifice list, if he has any idea that this is going to be a graveyard-based deck using those reanimation spells like Helping Hand or Recommission. There could potentially be some unlicensed Hearses. If Matt has Leylines in the sideboard, which he has Giganta as a companion, which doesn't mean that he can't have Leyline in the sideboard, but if it is going to be something along those lines, we could potentially see that coming into play here. We might be just wind up seeing a couple of Thoughtseize type spells coming in from Matt Zhu's side to kind of deal with the spell package that Ygra is going to be packing with the Oculus Reanimator deck, but there's also going to be if Rending Volley is something that is on the side on the radar here from Matt Zhu from his sideboard. We could potentially see that coming into play, because that's going to be basically hitting everything that Ygra has to offer in their deck, because it's in Azorius deck, and any sort of blue and white creatures, that's a prime target for those Rending Volleys. However, if we do hit this button, which now I intend to hit, which I did not intend to hit previously, we can see what Ygra is running in this blue-white Oculus Reanimator list. Of course, the Abhorrent Oculus is a 4 of here. We're trying to cheat that one into play with a helping hand as quickly as possible. We can maybe do it on turn 2 even if we wind up considering and surveilling it into the graveyard, but we do have a couple of reanimation spells like Recommission to do it on turn 2. We have some card advantage here. We have ops, we have considers, like I mentioned, and of course the Chart of Courses, which we can play for 2 mana, discard an Oculus, and then reanimate it on turn 3 without really having to affect what's in our graveyard. There's a little bit of tempo package here with some Brazen Borrowers. We have the No More Lies we saw in game number 1, and Picklock Prankster to not only put things in the graveyard to maybe just mill over an Oculus or cast it normally, but also be able to find any sort of interaction that we may be bringing in from the sideboard here from Ygra's side. Some Elspeth Smites might not be the greatest thing in the world. Change the Equation is going to be a pretty solid thing against the red spells coming out from the Jund Sacrifice deck. It is also something that can wind up working against Ygra very well. We do have Invasion of Gobakon, which I don't know if we're going to be seeing that one specifically coming into play, but I do think we're going to wind up seeing some Ashiok Dream Renders coming out from this sideboard plan so that we could wind up having a little bit more of a threat against Matt's graveyard. But it does look like that the game has started, as I will reset the life totals here for everybody. Ygra is going to be on the play for game number 2, and just going to be playing a couple of lands and passing the turn, while Matt Zhu is going to have a very powerful 1-2 punch of Scavenger's Talent into a Blood Tithe Harvester, which is a pretty banger start if you're going to be the sacrifice deck. Ygra, in the meantime, is just going to wind up responding with a Picklock Prankster's Free the Fae, double helping hand into graveyard, and winds up just snagging up a No More Lies, so maybe Ygra has one of those reanimation spells in hand already. Consider going to bin away, I believe that's a Chart of Course on Ygra's side. And we're just going to have a tapped land and pass the turn back. We know that No More Lies is live in Ygra's hand. Matt Zhu going to be untapping, and with potential for only 3 mana maximum, is probably not going to be able to contend with the counter spell, but we'll be able to start packing on some damage here as Ygra takes 3 from the Blood Tithe Harvesters. Matt, oh, Ygra's galore in his hand, but doesn't have any more land, so that's going to be a bit of a problem here. We are just going to wind up having a blood token sacrifice, I believe, at the end of Ygra's turn here, and Ygra now is going to be playing sort of the pseudo-control deck style. We do know that he has access to a couple of flash threats from his side and instant speed spells, so it's really going to be putting the pressure on Matt to do something with his hand. It looks like it can potentially start to happen here. We found lands galore with our draw for turn and our draw for that blood token, but we are going to start churning through this interaction that Ygra has with a No More Lies being cast against the Mayhem Devil, but we know that Matt still has a couple of Ygras in hand and at least 1 more land to play. Ygra, however, is just taking a ton of damage from this Blood Tithe Harvester. Does have a Ledger Shredder he does not want to wind up casting here, and it looks like that change of the equation did wind up coming in, and it is going to wind up counterspelling the Fable of the Mirror Breaker here from Matt Zhu, which could be stifling this Ygra from coming down anytime soon. All right, we are just going to wind up having a casting of the Picklock Prankster, it seems, here, and a passing of the turn. Now Ygra has a bit of a wall of blockers to try to churn through these attacks coming in from Matt Zhu. Looks like we may wind up having a block declared here by Ygra from this Picklock Prankster, which isn't going to be doing too much. No, actually, looks like he decided against it. Just takes 3 more damage down to 8. And Ygra really using that life total as a resource here. But now there's a Witch's Oven coming out from Matt Zhu, and land number 5, as we know, is going to be something very powerful with that Ygra in hand next turn. And we do see Scavenger's Talent just being leveled up here by Matt Zhu, so he's going to start having the combination of things online. All we need to do is find a couple of cats from Matt, and he has the infinite combo, but he might not even need that to win this game, as Ygra looks like he's unfortunately flooding out and finally has to pull the trigger on a block of this Blood Tithe Harvester. There we go, hardcast Ygra from hand. No More Lies gets hit. Most importantly, that exiles the Ygra, so that's not going to be able to be coming back thanks to Chapter 3 of Scavenger's Talent. But we do still have 1 in our graveyard just in case. Looks like a main phase Free the Fae here. Ooh, mills over the 1 of Monastery Mentor. Could have been something to really turn the tides for Ygra in this matchup if all he has is instant speed spells. The earlier change the equation was able to counteract the Fable of the Mirror Breaker because that is a red or green spell, so it's actually able to hit those spells with a mana value 6 or less. So Fable of the Mirror Breaker and Ygra fall under that umbrella. So change the equation, very powerful sideboard card here from Ygra, but we're starting to be able to do the thing here. All right, we had a couple of reanimation spells that was going on. We're going to have an Abhorrent Oculus in play, and we're going to wind up having our Monastery Mentor. So now the board is going to start getting huge for Ygra, and he still has 2 mana up for what I believe is a final No More Lies in his hand. So let's take a look at this one here. The giant flying eye in the sky, Abhorrent Oculus, 5/5 flyer. Normally you gotta delve away some cards from your graveyard to cast this, but since we're cheating it into play with Helping Hand, we are just gonna wind up getting this 5 power, 3 mana threat into play basically for free. In this case, it's going to be 1 mana. But at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, we get to Manifest Dreads. We look at the top 2, we put one face down as a 2/2. That can be flipped up if it's a creature, and the other one down into our graveyard. Now, this is the Helping Hand that we wind up using to get this card into play, which is why we wind up seeing these Abhorrent Oculi tapped currently. And then, of course, we also have access to Monastery Mentor, which was a staple in Legacy Miracles decks for a while, that whenever we cast a non-creature spell, we can create a 1/1 white monk token with prowess in and of itself. So we are going to wind up having a plethora of tokens coming into play here from Ygra's side. But while we've been talking about this, Matt Ju has been doing a little bit of shenanigans of his own. We had Feed the Swarm. It looks like getting milled over here, and we're starting to do some extra shenanigans with this Witch's Oven and the Scavenger's talent that has been activated on Chapter 2 of its class, which of course is going to be whenever you sacrifice a permanent, you can have somebody mill 2 cards. Since we do have the availability to level that up to Chapter 3, what we're seeing here is Matt Ju is looking to dig through his deck by sacrificing these foods and activating his Witch's Oven in order to find the Cauldron Familiars that he needs to get this Ygra out of the graveyard that he's put down there on turn 3 from that blood token, and then bring it back to the battlefield by sacking 3 non-land permanents, and then doing the cat loop as all of his creatures are going to be food. So if you have a food, a Ygra, and the cats in the graveyard, that's all you need to start that combo loop. So here we go, sacrificing the treasure. We have the floating mana available. It looks like we still have another Ygra in hand, but we are going to wind up deciding to cast the all-star of everything, Fable of the Mirror Breaker. So this is going to provide Matt with a potential token, but it is going to wind up eating the last No More Lies from the hand of Ygra instead. So now Matt knows that can't quite activate the Chapter 3 of the Scavenger's talent unless... Looks like he may not have dropped his land quite yet, so deciding not to actually level that one up to Chapter 3 yet, as he can't really sacrifice enough things to get his Ygra back. Still has a Ygra in hand. He can try just hard casting next turn if he needs to, and then if he has a 2-drop creature to kind of follow that up with, it's all game here. But now Ygra's deck is going to start to do the thing. He gets to untap. We had a couple of connive triggers coming in from this Ledger Shredder as both players were casting a bunch of spells. And it looks like now we're going to start getting a little aggressive with it here. We got a 3-power Shredder, a 2-power Mentor, a 5-power Oculi, a Manifest Dread, and 2 Prowess tokens, it looks like. So this is, I believe, 11? No, this is 14 damage coming across at Matt Ju's face, and he's just gonna take it. Oh, we get a second Monastery Mentor here. All right, so Monastery Mentor is going to be a multiple of in Ygra's list, and that is going to wind up triggering prowess post-combat, but that means that we're going to wind up getting another monk token. We are going to, after we pass the turn, let's actually we get 2 monk tokens because we have 2 mentors now. And after we pass the turn, we're going to wind up getting a Manifest Dread here from this Abhorrent Oculus, if Ygra remembers the trigger. Yes, he does. It looks like a Picklock Prankster and a Hall of Storm Giants. So we get another creature underneath that we can flip up into just some flying threat if we need to. And now it's really on Matt Ju. Did he wind up finding a creature to complement this Ygra in hand? All right, let's see if he can do it here. We can tap 5 for this Ygra, and if there is any other creature in his graveyard, we can activate the Scavenger's talent to Chapter 3. This will now bring back a creature from Matju's graveyard at the end of turn by sacrificing the oven, the talent, and... Oh, all right. Instead, looks like we're milling and trying to find a cat. So he sacrifices 3 more foods, brings back the Ygra. He's going to wind up milling a bunch. All right, if we find a cat. No cats there for Matju, so that's going to be Akira's token army, taking down game number 2 and bringing us to a deciding game number 3 here in round 1 of our first Pioneer Tuesday of October, technically. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. So the Abhorrent Oculus deck, this Azorius Oculus deck, was really able to do its thing that game and kind of took over the game. Once we wound up having multiple ways to bring the cards back from the graveyard, we wound up seeing that Akira was able to use all of those 1-mana cantrips and do all sorts of things with his deck to create an army of tokens, which in general is good against these black X mid-range type style of decks. Of course, Matju's Sacrifice deck does have the Ygra loop that you can just wind up winning the game out of nowhere pretty much. So it's not a guaranteed stonewall the way that like Wedding Announcement and all these token generator decks are against like the classic Rakdos mid-range decks, but it is still going to be something that means that Matju needs to do some math and find some sack outlets in order to try to get that last little bit of damage across to Akira's face. Now with Matju going to be on the play, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Akira to stall when he winds up finding the cards that he needs to chain things together. So we wind up seeing was 3 No More Lies and a Change the Equation really kind of hinder what Matju was doing, and Akira take things a little bit slower. But now that Matt is going to be basically 1 mana ahead of what Akira's tempo is going to be, so far as he hits every single land drop that he could possibly hit, it is going to be a lot more difficult for Akira to kind of tempo style spirits him out like he did in game number 2 there. So this might be something where we see Matju hitting the sideboard. Looks like maybe putting in some of that hand disruption, going for some more thought seizes, not at least seeing all the counter magic that Akira is bringing in from his sideboard. And if we recall correctly, because we do have Akira's deck list here that we could bring up on the screen, there is not only copies of Change the Equation, but we could wind up seeing things like Elspeth's Smite. I don't think we're going to wind up seeing Dovin's Veto come in this matchup specifically. I do know that there are a couple of other cards that would be kind of okay from Akira's side here. I don't think we're going to see the exercises or anything like that. Grelf, the Flesh White, right down on the bottom, which is going to be another one of these like Monastery Mentor type effects for the deck, could wind up coming in here. It's also a 3 or less mana converted mana cost creature, so that could come in and once again start gumming up the board against Matju. So Matt may be looking to bring in targeted removal for the big things such as the Abhorrent Oculus or these 3-drop creatures that create the tokens, but doesn't necessarily have the same sort of board wipes and sweeper power that we normally see out of the Rakdos mid-range decks, because if you accidentally Extinction Event on Odd and you have Cats or Ygra in play, that's really bad for the Sacrifice deck. Looks like both players are getting ready to shuffle up and resolve mulligans. This is going to be the deciding game number 3. In our first round of Pioneer Tuesday here, our first one of October. If you're in the Sunnyvale, California area and you want to come down and play some Magic the Gathering, Tuesday's a perfect day. Come on down for Pioneer. You might be able to get on stream, and you can play with all of our regular customers here at the store. You can wind up talking to everybody and hanging out. I mean, we have some brews, we have some metagame decks, we have players that are using this as their last Tuesday before flying off to the regional championship in Washington, D.C., and then we have some people that just really love to play Pioneer and kind of try out whatever their heart desires here. We got Akira playing something that's a little bit brand new, and Matt Zhu's deck isn't necessarily old, but it is definitely something that was extremely popular at last weekend's regional championship in Brazil, where it was the second most played deck, but unfortunately did not have the highest win rate. I think it was like 41.3% average overall, and didn't necessarily beat up on anything except for maybe some of the Is It Phoenix lists that were in the room. But we are going to wind up getting into game number 3 with Matt Zhu on the play, and is going to start off with a turn 1 Scavenger's Talent, just like game number 2.
Register, Eric, register. So we have even people.
All right, we got leveling up of Scavenger's Talent and passing here from Matt. So that's not going to be the same sort of pressure from Blood Tithe Harvester, but we do see Mayhem Devil, Fatal Push, Deadly Dispute, a bunch of lands in hand here from Matt. And Ygra is just going to wind up having a Consider at the end of Matt's turn, bins and opt, and ooh, the Exercise actually did wind up coming in. And this is something that I may have missed, as it's going to be able to get rid of the Scavenger's Talent. So this is going to be exile target artifact, enchantment, or creature with power 4 or greater. So this hits Ygra if you can sacrifice food. This does not hit Mayhem Devil, which Matt Zhu has now cast on his side, but this does get rid of Fable, the Mirror Breaker, and Scavenger's Talent, as well as the Witch's Oven. So I think I misspoke a little bit before and I said this one might not be coming in. All right, so it looks like we had a little bit of an interaction here. I think that might have been Elspeth's Smite coming down for Ygra, which would have done 3 damage to an attacking or blocking creature, which is now coming up on your screen here. There was a bit of a stack interaction as we had a Deadly Dispute to sacrifice the Mayhem Devil, so it did trigger and ping 1 damage to Ygra's face. However, there was a change to the equation to follow this up, and as someone pointed out in chat before, that works against all spells that are mana cost 2. So that is going to be something that just gets countered out. And then on a passing back to Ygra's turn, you wind up having a Ledger Shredder. Does not wind up staying alive, though, as this Fatal Push by Matt Zhu comes out as quickly as it possibly can. And we do wind up having Blood Tithe Harvester, All-Star from the last 2 games here for Matt Zhu, hitting the battlefield. Pass back to Ygra just winds up resulting in a land drop and go, but now it's 5 mana to 3 as Matt Zhu again is in this kind of stalled state with his land total. So this is where we saw Ygra turning the corner in game number 2, and if he has an interactive hand like he did then, this could be the kind of go sign here as Matt just sacrifices the blood token, discards a Deadly Dispute, and just gets 1 draw. Doesn't want to actually use the Deadly Dispute. Looks like he has a 3rd one in hand, so excess of riches here coming out from Matt Zhu. But we do have Ledger Shredder followed up by Ledger Shredder coming out here for Ygra, so that will get a Connive trigger off of the first one. Just pitches a No More Lies, says I don't need this, and well, there's a Fable, the Mirror Breaker from Matt Zhu, so maybe he did after all. But that's going to be a 2-4 and a 1-3 here, but we have a lot of cantrips in Ygra's deck, like this Consider and this Consider, which is now just going to wind up drawing and discarding some cards here from Ygra's side. And if they're both creatures or spells, well, there we go. That's going to be pumping up these Ledger Shredders. And looks like he bins off of the Consider. And ooh, that's a good hit here. Abhorrent Oculus, after going through a bunch of cards that could have potentially missed it, Abhorrent Oculus winds up hitting the battlefield the old-fashioned way. And I guess by the old-fashioned way, I mean the new way, as it is going to be a newer card from Duskmourn, but just kind of delves away these 6 cards from graveyard that he was just happy to pitch away from these Connive triggers. And now there's a 5/5 flyer on Ygra's side that is checking everything that Matt has on the board. All right, we do have active Fable, the Mirror Breaker, though, so Chapter 2 is going to wind up pitching away. It looks like a land and a Ygra here from Matt Zhu's side. Does wind up drawing 2 additional cards because of that. Looks like a land, a Mayhem Devil, 2 lands, Mayhem Devil, and Deadly Dispute in hand. So are we going to wind up seeing Matt Zhu potentially swinging in with a Shaman, getting a treasure token, and then having some ping shenanigans coming out here with a Mayhem Devil? Or is it just going to be hardcast Mayhem Devil? Ygra is tapped out and empty-handed. We did have a Manifest Dread from this Abhorrent Oculus on Matt Zhu's upkeep, so We saw that there was a No More Lies put into the graveyard from Akira's side, and if that's a creature underneath, he can flip that up at any given time just for its converted mana cost. So if it's another Oculus, it's pretty good. If it's a Monastery Mentor, and we have a spell for our draw next turn, pretty good. But Matt Ju is kind of faced with a choice here. Probably going to wind up playing one of these lands, but does he attack with the Goblin Shaman and create a treasure token, which can be used to then pay for a Deadly Dispute later, but then he doesn't have the Goblin Shaman to actually sacrifice. So instead, plays a tap Overgrown Tomb for turn, passes the turn, and oh baby, one eye was not enough to see what Akira's up to. We're gonna flip over another one, and since that one is not Summoning Sick because it was Manifest Dread, we are gonna wind up swinging in for 10 plus 5 damage here, all the way down to 2 all of a sudden for Matt Ju. So this is basically ride or die as Akira gets 2, count them, 2 Manifest Dread triggers here from a pair of Abhorrent Oculi. Don't need glasses to see how good this eye is for Akira right now. Matt's going to start off by flipping over a Fable, the Mirror Breaker into Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, and is that double land Deadly Dispute in hand? All right. Matt's going to be hard-pressed to deal with a bunch of flying attackers here from Akira's side. I think one of those Manifest Dreads is also going to be a Ledger Shredder that we saw from Akira putting down. Don't know if the other one is also a creature, but we can flip over that Ledger Shredder at any given time and get a bunch of connives. But it looks like Matt Ju has to start off with a Deadly Dispute here. Most likely getting rid of the Goblin Shaman, even though that is the treasure generator that could potentially start machine gunning down some things from Akira's side, but I just think there's too many things here. All right, Matt has decided to go after Akira's life total here. Pings for 1. Draws 2 cards. Fable Scavenger's Talent. Is there something we can do here? We have to use the treasure to level up the Scavenger's Talent, but if that's a pathway, we can Scavenger's Talent and then level it up, sack the treasure token, start milling. But then we're not close enough to wind up getting our level 3 of our Scavenger's Talent, and we're not going to be able to get that Ygra out of our graveyard, even if we mill over a couple of cats. So even with the Scavenger's Talent in hand, with no removal in sight, Matt Ju just might be dead on board here. Yeah, it's looking like it's Scavenger's Talent, Fable, the Mirror Breaker, land. Matt's really in the tank on this one, and then extends the hand. He doesn't have anything he can do to come back from that one. That's going to wind up being the Azorius Oculus deck with the eyes in the sky, taking round number 1 for Akira, 2-1.